You're not overwhelmed because you have too much to do. You are overwhelmed because your time has no structure. Your mind is exhausted from deciding, reacting, and switching every minute, every hour, every day. This audiobook will install a simple, repeatable system that tells your brain exactly what to focus on and when. No motivation, no hacks, no inspiration, just a daily structure that removes noise, restores calm, and trains sustained focus through disciplined control of time. If you follow this system, overwhelm ends and clarity becomes automatic. Chapter 1. Stop managing tasks, control time. Stop trying to change your life. That is your first instruction. Most people fail because they aim at the wrong target. They try to change outcomes. They try to change feelings. They try to change everything at once. That approach collapses every time. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. That's the key. The first truth you must accept is simple and non-negotiable. Tasks are infinite. Time is not. Tasks multiply without permission. They appear overnight. They regenerate when you complete them. They expand to fill every empty space in your mind. Time does not do that. Time is fixed. Time is finite. Time is the only real constraint you have. If you manage tasks, you lose. If you control time, you win. You have a choice. Most people wake up and look at a list. A long list. A growing list. They tell themselves they will get through it. They won't. The list creates pressure. Pressure creates anxiety. Anxiety fractures attention. And fractured attention guarantees unfinished work. That's not a motivation problem. It's not a discipline flaw. It's a structural error. It's not about effort. It's about design. Task lists feel productive because they are familiar, but familiar does not mean effective. Task lists keep your brain in decision mode all day long. What should I do next? How long will this take? What if I don't finish? Every question drains focus. Every decision taxes attention. That's the real cost, not the work, the deciding. Time blocking removes that cost. When time is assigned, the decision is already made. When time is protected, attention stabilizes. When time ends, the work stops. That creates closure. Closure creates calm. What gets time gets done. Say it again. What gets time gets done. Not what gets written down. Not what gets prioritized emotionally. What gets time? This is where most people resist. They say they need flexibility. They say their day is unpredictable. They say time blocking feels restrictive. They are wrong. What they call flexibility is reaction. What they call freedom is chaos. What they call realism is avoidance. You don't need their permission to structure your day. You don't need consensus. You don't need ideal conditions. You have a choice. Here's the rule. You do not work from a list. You work from the clock. Lists are storage. Time blocks are execution. The list belongs outside your head. The schedule tells your head what to do. This is how anxiety is reduced. Not by doing more, by deciding less. When a task lives on a list, it stays psychologically open. Your mind keeps checking it, revisiting it, carrying it. When a task lives inside a time block, it is contained. It has a beginning. It has an end. Your mind can rest. That's not productivity theory. That's cognitive relief. It's not about speed. It's about containment. It's not about hustle. It's about discipline. You don't wake up asking what you feel like doing. You wake up knowing what time it is for. That's the shift. Here is another rule. You assign time even when you don't know exactly how long something will take. Precision is not required. Commitment is. A 1-hour block does not promise completion. It promises presence. That's the training. Focus is not a personality trait. Focus is a conditioned response to structure. When your brain sees the same block at the same time, day after day, it adapts. It stops negotiating. It stops resisting. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. Repeat the structure. The results follow. People think time blocking is about control. It is, but not control over work. Control over attention. Attention is your most expensive resource, and most people give it away in fragments. Emails here, messages there, tasks everywhere. Fragmentation feels busy. It feels responsible. It feels exhausting. Time blocking does not eliminate responsibility. It organizes it. Here is the behavior change. You stop asking, "What should I do next?" You start asking, "What is this hour for?" That single question removes overwhelm. You don't need more hours. You need fewer open loops. This is where people make another mistake. They overpack the blocks. That's not discipline. That's impatience. A time block has one purpose. One, look at time gets done. If you assign 5 objectives to one block, you have assigned none. You have recreated the task list inside the clock. Do not do that. This system is not about ambition. It is about obedience to structure. You follow the block even when the work feels slow, even when progress feels minimal, even when you want to switch. Especially then. That's the conditioning. You have a choice. You can continue managing tasks and wondering why you feel behind, or you can control time and let focus stabilize. You don't need permission to do this differently. You don't need approval. You don't need to explain it. You design the day. You enforce the day. This chapter gives you the first principle. Time is the unit of execution, not tasks, not goals, not motivation. In the next chapter, we go deeper. Because once you accept that time must be controlled, you must confront the real cause of overwhelm. Not workload, not stress, but unscheduled attention. That's where we go next. Chapter 2, Overwhelm is a scheduling problem. Overwhelm is not a personality flaw. It is not emotional weakness. It is not a lack of resilience. Overwhelm is unscheduled attention bleeding everywhere. That is the truth. Accept it without argument. Most people believe overwhelm comes from too much responsibility. They are wrong. It comes from responsibility without structure. When everything is possible at every moment, the mind never rests. When attention has no assignment, it fragments. When it fragments, anxiety fills the gaps. That's not psychology. That's mechanics. You have a choice. Look at a typical overwhelmed day. Nothing is technically wrong. No emergency. No crisis. But the mind is tense, restless, pulled in multiple directions. Why? Because attention is unscheduled. Unscheduled attention does not stay still. It scans. It worries. It anticipates. It revisits unfinished loops. The brain is trying to protect you. But without structure, protection feels like panic. Here is the rule. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. Say it again. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. Unscheduled work becomes background noise. Background noise becomes mental pressure. Mental pressure becomes overwhelm. This is why people feel anxious even when they're not working. Their attention is still active, still checking, still anticipating. They did not schedule the work, so the work follows them. Consider a simple example. 2 people have the same workload, same tasks, same responsibilities. One feels calm, the other feels overwhelmed. The difference is not effort. The difference is containment. The calm person has assigned time. The overwhelmed person has assigned intention. Intention is weak. Time is firm. Saying, "I'll get to it" creates tension. Saying, "I'll work on it from 10 to 11" creates relief. Why? Because the mind trusts the clock more than promises. That's the key. Another example. Someone worries constantly about an important project. They think about it in the shower, in traffic, before sleep. Nothing gets done, but the mind is exhausted. Then they schedule 1 hour. Just one. Same project. Same difficulty. The worry drops immediately. Not because the project is solved, Because attention is contained. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. This is why effort does not calm overwhelm. More effort increases pressure. More structure reduces it. It's not about working harder. It's about working at a defined time. Most people believe they must feel ready before scheduling. That belief keeps them trapped. You don't schedule when you feel ready. You feel ready because you scheduled. You don't need motivation. You need a time boundary. Here is another rule. Anxiety shrinks when it has edges. Time blocks are edges. They tell the mind when to engage and when to disengage. Without edges, attention never shuts off. That is why rest feels restless for overwhelmed people. Their attention is still on duty. They did not schedule rest, so rest does not exist. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. This applies to everything. Work, thinking, planning, even worry. Yes, worry. If something matters enough to worry about, it matters enough to schedule. If you do not schedule it, you're choosing constant low-grade stress. You have a choice. Here is the behavior change. You stop allowing important things to live in your head. You force them onto the calendar, not to solve them, to contain them. Containment is relief. This is where people resist again. They say, I can't schedule everything. You don't need to. You need to schedule what is draining you. Overwhelm is selective. It comes from a few open loops, not all of them. Find the loop. Assign the time. Watch the pressure drop. That's not theory. That's observable. Another example. Someone checks messages constantly. They say they are overwhelmed by communication. They are not. They are overwhelmed by unscheduled communication. Messages arrive all day. Attention switches all day. The mind never settles. Then they schedule 2 communication blocks. 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Same messages, same volume. Overwhelm disappears. Why? Because attention is no longer bleeding. It has a place to go. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. This rule is not harsh. It is humane. Structure is not restriction. It is psychological safety. When a mind knows there's a time coming, it can let go now. This is why planning feels calming. Not because the plan is perfect, but because uncertainty decreases. You don't need certainty of outcome. You need certainty of engagement. That's the discipline. Here is another rule. You never schedule based on mood. You schedule based on priority. Mood follows structure, not the other way around. Waiting to feel calm before scheduling guarantees you stay overwhelmed. You have a choice. Either attention decides your day, or you do. Most people let attention roam freely. Then they try to manage the consequences emotionally. That never works. You do not manage overwhelm with coping. You eliminate it with structure. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. Say it again. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. This chapter is not about doing more. It is about stopping the mental leak. When attention leaks, energy drains. When energy drains, focus collapses. Scheduling plugs the leak. In the next chapter, we tighten the system further. Because even with time blocks, overwhelm returns if you keep deciding all day. Next, you will learn how to decide once and stop negotiating with yourself. Chapter 3, decide once, not all day. Your focus is not weak. It is overused. Every decision costs attention. Every choice taxes the mind. Every unresolved option pulls energy. Most people do not lose focus because they are distracted. They lose focus because they are deciding all day. What should I do next? When should I do it? How long should this take? Should I switch? Should I stop? That internal dialogue never ends. That's not work. That's friction. Here is the principle you must accept. Decisions belong on paper, not in your head. Say it again. Decisions belong on paper, not in your head. The human mind was not designed to hold schedules. It was designed to execute them. When you keep decisions in your head, You force your brain into constant negotiation. Negotiation drains clarity. Clarity is required for focus. This is why even simple days feel heavy. Not because the work is hard, because the deciding never stops. You have a choice. You could decide once, or you could pay the cost all day. Time blocking is not primarily a scheduling tool. It is a decision removal system. When a block is fixed, the decision is over. No debate, no evaluation, no internal discussion. At 9 o'clock, this is what happens. At 10 o'clock, it changes. The mind relaxes when the argument ends. Most people think they need variety to stay engaged. They are wrong. Variety increases decisions. Decisions increase fatigue. Fatigue destroys focus. Fixed routines do the opposite. Consider a simple example. Someone wakes up every day and decides when to work. Some days early, some days late, some days never. They think they are being flexible. They are actually draining themselves. Another person works from 8 to 10 every morning. Same time, same block, same rules. They do not ask if they feel ready. They do not check motivation. They begin. Over time, their mind stops resisting. It learns the pattern. Confidence grows, not because they feel inspired, but because they trust the structure. That's the difference. Decisions belong on paper, not in your head. Here is another example. Someone plans their day loosely. They keep options open. They want to see how they feel. By noon, they are exhausted. They have done some things, finished nothing, and feel behind. Another person has a written schedule. It is boring, predictable, repetitive. By noon, they feel calm, not because everything is done, but because everything is decided. The mind does not crave freedom. It craves certainty. This is where people resist again. They say fixed routines feel rigid. They fear losing spontaneity. That fear is misplaced. Spontaneity without structure is chaos. Spontaneity within structure is freedom. When decisions are already made, energy is available. When energy is available, creativity emerges. You don't need to decide all day to be flexible. You need fewer decisions to think clearly. Here is the rule. You do not decide during execution. Execution time is sacred. Decisions happen before. Planning is when you think. Blocks are when you act. Mixing the two creates noise. This is why time blocking works only when blocks are fixed in advance. If you decide inside the block, you defeat the system. The block is not a suggestion. It is an instruction. You have a choice. You can keep renegotiating your day, or you can follow orders you gave yourself yesterday. Self-trust is built that way. Another case, someone struggles with consistency. They blame discipline. They blame willpower. The real problem is choice overload. They choose when to work. They choose what to work on. They choose how long to work. 3 decisions before the work even starts. Remove the choices. Consistency appears. This is not about control. It is about relief. Decisions belong on paper, not in your head. Write the routine once. Follow it daily. Wait time. Focus block. Break. Second block. Shut down. Same structure. Different content. That's how the mind learns. Confidence does not come from results alone. It comes from predictability. When you know what happens next, anxiety drops. When anxiety drops, focus deepens. That's not motivation. That's design. Most people are tired of thinking. They just don't realize it. They say they're mentally exhausted. They say they can't focus. What they mean is they have been deciding nonstop. The solution is not rest alone. It is decision removal. Rest without structure does not restore clarity. It just delays the next negotiation. Here is another rule. The fewer decisions you make during the day, the higher the quality of the ones that remain. Spend decisions where they matter. Remove them where they don't. You do not need to decide when to check email. You assign it. You do not need to decide when to work deeply. You schedule it. You do not need to decide when to stop. You set an end. This is how professionals operate. Not emotionally, structurally. You don't need their permission to work this way. You don't need approval. You have a choice. Either your environment decides for you, or you decide once and move on. This chapter gives you the second principle. Focus is preserved by eliminating decisions. Time blocking works because it turns choices into instructions. Decisions belong on paper, not in your head. In the next chapter, we lock the system in place. Because deciding once is powerful, but only if the structure itself is fixed. Next, you will build the daily framework that trains focus automatically. Chapter 4. Build the fixed daily framework. Freedom does not come from flexibility. It comes from structure. This is where most people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline means pushing harder. It does not. Discipline means deciding the shape of the day and obeying it. You do not need a perfect schedule. You need a fixed one. Same structure, calmer mind. Say it again. Same structure, calmer mind. Your mind learns through repetition, not through variety, not through novelty. When the structure is predictable, attention settles. When a structure is unstable, attention stays alert. Alertness looks like productivity, but it is actually stress. Here is the principle. Consistency trains attention faster than flexibility. Accept it. The mind is a pattern recognition system. It adapts to what repeats. If your day changes constantly, your mind never adapts. It stays vigilant. It stays reactive. It stays tired. A fixed daily framework removes that burden. This framework is not complicated. It is simple by design. Complexity creates negotiation. Negotiation drains focus. The daily skeleton has 4 non-negotiable parts. Wake, focus, rest, shut down. These are anchors. Everything else attaches to them. You do not reinvent these daily. You set them once. Same structure, calmer mind. Start with wake time. A consistent wake time sets the rhythm of the day. Not because of productivity, because of predictability. When wake time floats, everything floats. Meals float. Work floats. Rest floats. Floating schedules create mental instability. Pick a wake time. Not the perfect one, the repeatable one. Then enforce it. You don't need their permission. Next, the focus blocks. These are the backbone of the day. 1 or 2 blocks. No more. They happen at the same time every day. Not when you feel ready. Not when inspiration appears. At the same time. The mind learns quickly when the rule is consistent. At this hour, we focus. No negotiation. No checking. No warming up. You sit. You begin. Same structure, calmer mind. This is how attention is trained. Not through effort. Through repetition. Now rest. Rest is not optional. Rest is scheduled. Unscheduled rest turns into distraction. Scheduled rest becomes recovery. This is where many people fail. They rest reactively, only when exhausted. That trains burnout. Rest must be proactive, placed intentionally, protected. A break is not a reward. It is a requirement. If rest is not scheduled, it doesn't exist. Finally, shut down. This is critical. The day must end on purpose. Not when you collapse. Not when distractions win. A fixed shutdown time tells the mind, we are done. Without shutdown, the mind stays partially engaged all night. Thinking, replaying, anticipating. That is not dedication. That is leakage. A clear shutdown creates psychological closure. Same structure, calmer mind. This skeleton does not change day to day. The content inside the blocks may change. The structure does not. This is where people resist again. They say, my days are different. They say, I need flexibility. They say, this won't work for me. That is avoidance speaking. Everyone's days have differences. Professionals still use fixed frameworks. The framework absorbs variation. It does not eliminate it. Structure is not rigidity. It is reliability. Here is another rule. You do not optimize the framework daily. Optimization is a trap. You build it. You test it for weeks. Then you adjust. Constant tweaking signals uncertainty. Uncertainty keeps the mind alert. Alert minds do not focus deeply. Same structure, calmer mind. Consider an example. One person decides their schedule each morning. They believe they're being intentional. They're actually restarting the system every day. Another person follows the same framework Monday through Friday. They do not love it. They do not hate it. They trust it. After weeks, their focus improves. Not because they tried harder, but because their mind stopped bracing for change. That's how training works. You have a choice. You can keep designing your day emotionally, or you could design it structurally. Emotional design feels good short-term. Structural design works long-term. This is not about maximizing output. It is about stabilizing attention. Once attention is stable, output follows. Another rule: the framework exists to reduce thinking, not increase it. If your schedule requires constant interpretation, it is too complex. Simple blocks, clear boundaries, predictable transitions. That's the system. You do not wake up asking what today will be like. You already know. That certainty is calming. Same structure, calmer mind. People who resist structure often say they fear boredom. Boredom is not the enemy. Chaos is. Boredom within structure is where depth grows. It is where patience is trained. It is where attention strengthens. You are not here to be entertained. You are here to be conditioned. This framework conditions you. You don't need their permission to live this way. You don't need approval. You don't need validation. You enforce the structure. The structure supports you. This chapter gives you the third principle. Attention stabilizes when the day is predictable. Fixed frameworks remove friction. Remove friction and focus becomes sustainable. Same structure, calmer mind. In the next chapter, we refine the system further. Because even with a fixed framework, focus fails if blocks are overloaded. Next, you will learn the rule that protects depth. One block, one purpose. Chapter 5, One block, one purpose. Multitasking is not a skill. It is a failure of structure. Depth does not disappear randomly. It is destroyed deliberately by mixing purposes. When you place multiple objectives inside a single block, you fracture attention. When attention fractures, depth collapses. When depth collapses, time is wasted. This is not a motivation issue. It is not a talent issue. It is a design issue. One block, one target, no negotiation. Say it again. One block, one target, no negotiation. The mind cannot hold two intentions at the same time. It can only switch rapidly. Switching feels productive. It is not. Every switch carries a cost. A reset, a delay, a loss of momentum. Those costs are invisible but cumulative. By the end of the day, attention is exhausted and little of substance is complete. You have a choice. You can keep slicing your attention into fragments, or you can train it to stay. Depth is trained by staying. Here is the principle. A time block exists to serve a single purpose. Not a category, not a theme, a purpose. Work is not a purpose. Emails and tasks is not a purpose. Project A, then maybe B is not a purpose. Those are invitations to drift. A purpose is precise, clear, non-negotiable. This hour is for drafting. This hour is for analysis. This hour is for review. When the purpose is singular, the mind commits. When it is vague, the mind wanders. That's the key. Consider 2 days. Day 1 is shallow. The person wakes up with a loose plan. They block time, but each block contains multiple intentions. They check messages. They respond to something quick. They switch to a document. They jump back to messages. By evening, they are tired, busy, unsatisfied. Nothing demanded full attention. Nothing received it. Day 2 is different. The same number of hours. The same workload. But each block has one purpose. Messages are handled in one block. Writing happens in one block. Planning happens in one block. No overlap. No mixing. By evening, the person is calmer. Not because more was done, but because attention was respected. One block. One target. No negotiation. This rule feels restrictive to people who are addicted to stimulation. It feels uncomfortable to people who fear missing something. That discomfort is training. Depth feels uncomfortable at first because the mind is used to escaping. Escaping into email. Escaping into checking. Escaping into just one more thing. Those escapes reset the block. Here is the rule. You do not change targets mid-block. If you chose poorly, you finish anyway. You correct tomorrow. Mid-block switching teaches the mind that discomfort leads to escape. That weakens attention. Staying teaches the opposite. You have a choice. Stay with the target, or stay scattered. People often say, but I work better when I mix tasks. What they mean is they feel less resistance. Less resistance is not better work. It is shallower work. Deep work has friction. That friction is not a sign to stop. It is a sign to continue. One block. One target. No negotiation. Another example. Someone schedules a 2-hour block labeled deep work. Inside that block, they allow themselves to handle anything important. They believe they are being disciplined. They are not. They have created a large container with no boundaries. Attention drifts to the easiest available task, not the most important one. This is why blocks must be specific. The more specific the purpose, the less negotiation occurs. Decisions belong on paper, not in your head. The target is written. The rule is clear. During this block, nothing else exists. If something urgent appears, you note it. You do not act on it. Why? Because reacting trains reactivity. Staying trains focus. You don't need their permission to ignore interruptions. You need discipline. Here is another rule. You do not stack tasks to feel productive. Productivity is not the goal. Depth is. Depth produces quality. Quality produces confidence. Confidence produces calm. This is why single-purpose blocks rebuild sustained attention. They give the mind one direction. Over time, the mind adapts. It stops scanning. It stops checking. It settles. That settling is not laziness. It is efficiency. People who master this rule report something specific. Mental quiet. Not excitement. Not intensity. Quiet. Because attention is no longer pulled apart. One block. One target. No negotiation. This rule also protects time. When you mix tasks, everything takes longer. When you separate them, each task finishes faster. Not because you rush, because you stop resetting. Resetting is the enemy of depth. Another example. Someone writes while checking references, messages, and notes simultaneously. They believe this is efficient. It is not. Another person separates the work. One block to gather information. One block to write. One block to revise. Same work. Less fatigue. Better output. That is design. You have a choice. You can keep pretending multitasking works, or you can accept the evidence. Depth requires exclusivity. This rule will challenge your habits. That is intentional. You're being conditioned. Conditioning requires repetition. Repetition requires rules. One block. One target. No negotiation. Say it again. One block. One target. No negotiation. This chapter gives you the fourth principle. Attention strengthens when it is not divided. Single-purpose blocks are the training ground for focus. In the next chapter, we address the environment itself. Because even with perfect blocks, focus collapses if silence is accidental. Next, you will learn why silence must be scheduled and how it retrains the mind. Chapter 6, Silence is a scheduled discipline. Focus does not survive noise. It adapts to it. And adaptation is not strength. Noise trains reactivity. Silence trains depth. Most people misunderstand silence. They think silence is the absence of sound. It is not. Silence is the absence of interruption, the absence of demand, the absence of reaction. Silence is a condition, and conditions must be created. Silence is where focus is trained. Say it again. Silence is where focus is trained. Most people experience silence only by accident. When messages slow down, when others are unavailable, when exhaustion forces a pause, that kind of silence is unreliable. It cannot train anything. Training requires repetition. Repetition requires intention. You have a choice. You can wait for silence to appear, or you can schedule it. Here is the principle. Silence is not a luxury. It is a discipline. And like every discipline, it must be enforced. The nervous system is always listening, scanning, responding. Every sound, alert, and interruption tells it, stay alert. Alertness feels productive. It is actually defensive. A defensive nervous system cannot sustain deep focus. It stays shallow by design. Silent blocks change that. When silence is planned and protected, the nervous system receives a different signal. There is no threat, no demand, no urgency. At first, this feels uncomfortable. The mind fidgets, reaches, looks for stimulation. That discomfort is not a problem. It is evidence. Evidence that your attention has been trained to react. Silence retrains it. Silence is where focus is trained. Most people avoid silence because it reveals restlessness. They mistake restlessness for a flaw. It is not a flaw. It is conditioning. Years of notifications. Years of background noise. Years of constant input. The system adapted. Now it must be reconditioned. Here is the rule. Silence must be scheduled inside focus blocks. Not optional. Not occasional. Scheduled. No music. No podcasts. No background noise chosen for comfort. Comfort weakens training. Silence strengthens it. This does not mean isolation forever. It means intentional exposure. Like physical training, you apply stress gradually. Start with shorter silent blocks. 30 minutes. 45. Then increase. The nervous system learns tolerance. That's the key. Silence is not emptiness. It is space. Space allows attention to stretch. Without space, attention contracts. This is why people say they cannot focus without noise. They are not incapable. They are untrained. Training begins with silence. Consider two workers. One works with constant background input. Music, videos, conversations. They feel engaged. They feel busy. But when asked to focus deeply, they struggle. Their nervous system expects stimulation. Another works in silence. Not always, but regularly. At first, it was uncomfortable. Now it is calming. Their attention stays longer. Their thinking goes deeper. Same person, different conditioning. Silence is where focus is trained. This also explains why people feel anxious when things are quiet. An anxious nervous system fears the absence of input. Silence feels unsafe, but safety is learned. You teach safety by repetition. Here is another rule. Silent blocks are not for productivity alone. They are for nervous system regulation. Do not fill them with urgency. Do not rush. You are not trying to prove anything. You are training tolerance. Tolerance for stillness. Tolerance for depth. Tolerance for slow progress. It's not about speed, it's about discipline. People often ask, what if something important happens? That question reveals dependence on interruption. If something is truly important, it can wait one block. If it cannot, it belongs in a different system. You don't need their permission to protect silence. You need conviction. Another example. Someone schedules deep work but leaves notifications on just in case. They believe they are being responsible. They are undermining training. Every notification spikes the nervous system. Even if ignored, the body reacts before the mind decides. This is why silence must be absolute inside the block. Phone away. Alerts off. Doors closed. No negotiation. One block. One target. No negotiation. Silence reinforces that rule. Over time, something changes. The initial discomfort fades. The urge to check weakens. Attention stays longer without effort. This is not willpower. It is conditioning. The nervous system has learned that silence is safe. That is how depth becomes sustainable. Silence is where focus is trained. Another case. Someone says they feel mentally cluttered all the time. They try organizing tools. They try productivity apps. Nothing works. Then they introduce one daily silent block. Same time, same conditions. After weeks, their thinking slows. Not dulls, slows. Slower thinking is clearer thinking. The mind stops racing because it is no longer overstimulated. This is why silence has always been part of serious training. Monasteries, libraries, laboratories, not for aesthetics, for conditioning. Modern environments remove silence by default. You must reintroduce it deliberately. You have a choice. You can keep feeding stimulation, or you can train restraint. Restraint builds control. Another rule: silence is not isolation from people. It is isolation from inputs. You can be around others and still protect silence. Boundaries matter more than location. Silence is a policy, not a place. Write it into your schedule. Label it clearly. Silent focus block. If it's not scheduled, it doesn't exist. During that block, nothing else competes. This is not harsh. It is precise. Precision creates calm. People who commit to silent blocks report something consistent. Less anxiety, more patience, greater depth. Not immediately, gradually. Training always works that way. You don't change your life. You change what you repeat. Repeat silence. The system adapts. Silence is where focus is trained. Say it again. Silence is where focus is trained. This chapter gives you the fifth principle. Attention deepens when stimulation is removed deliberately. Silence is not passive. It is active training. In the next chapter, we address the greatest threat to silence and structure: interruption. Next, you will learn how to protect the block without guilt, explanation, or apology. Chapter 7. Protect the block at all costs. Attention is fragile. It can be built. It can also be destroyed in seconds. Interruptions reset focus. Every reset costs energy. Every reset prolongs overwhelm. This is not theory. It is observable. It is inevitable if you do not protect your time. The block is the boundary. Say it again. The block is the boundary. Most people underestimate the cost of interruption. A notification pops up. They check it. Minutes vanish. The mind must reorient. Momentum is lost. Cognitive load increases. It is not the length of the interruption. It is the switch itself. Each switch requires recovery. You have a choice. Allow interruptions, or protect your attention. The rule is simple. During a focus block, nothing enters unless it is pre-approved. No messages, no emails, no calls, no distractions from yourself. Yes, self-sabotage counts. Checking social media, reorganizing your desk unnecessarily, second-guessing the block. The block is the boundary. Boundaries are not negotiable. They are structural. They define what can and cannot enter your mind. Consider real scenarios. Notification from colleague. You feel obliged to respond immediately. Your block collapses. Your nervous system reacts. Focus is shattered. Another scenario. A friend calls to ask a quick question. Your mind can sense. 15 minutes are gone. Momentum is gone. Even self-sabotage works the same way. A small internal urge, just check this, breaks the flow. You rebuild. You rebuild again and again. Do not negotiate with these forces. Do not rationalize. Do not apologize. The block is the boundary. This is a system. Systems require enforcement. Enforcement requires discipline. Discipline requires consistency. Set physical boundaries. Turn off notifications. Close doors. Sign out of distracting accounts. Use headphones or silence the environment. Set psychological boundaries. Tell yourself the block cannot be violated. Not temporarily. Not conditionally. Always. If someone intrudes, note it. Return to it after the block. You are training your mind. Every intrusion teaches reactivity. Every protection teaches focus. Boundaries are contagious. If you respect the block, others learn to respect it. If you ignore it, everyone learns they can invade your attention. Here is another rule. Interruptions are rarely emergencies. Most demands can wait. Most problems are not urgent. You decide what is urgent. The block is not negotiable. Consider the cost mathematically. 5 interruptions of 3 minutes each. 15 minutes lost. 10 minutes to reorient per interruption. 65 minutes of effective work lost in 1 hour. The block is the boundary. Your mind cannot distinguish between external and internal interruptions. Both reset attention. Both prolong overwhelm. Both destroy calm. Self-sabotage must be treated like external interference. Checking email unnecessarily. Ruminating. Jumping tasks. The mind obeys the environment. Protect it. Train it. You have a choice. Allow chaos. Or enforce boundaries. Another example. You schedule a 2-hour block to write. Every 30 minutes, you open a message. By the end, nothing is complete. Stress rises. Compare that to someone who enforces the block strictly. 2 hours of writing. 0 interruptions. Completion occurs. Confidence grows. Stress diminishes. This is predictable. It is repeatable. It is structural. The block is the boundary. Repeat it. The block is the boundary. Every focus block has an edge. Do not blur it. Do not shrink it. Do not expand it unnecessarily. If the environment cannot be changed, change the block. Move to a quieter location. Time the block when fewer people are present. Shield yourself deliberately. Enforcement is not negotiation. It is training. Every day the block is protected, attention strengthens. Every day the block is violated, attention weakens. Overwhelm returns. This is not optional. This is not theory. This is system design. You have a choice. Respect the block. Your mind strengthens. Ignore the block. Your mind fragments. The block is the boundary. Say it again. The block is the boundary. This chapter gives you the 6th principle. Attention must be defended actively, not passively, not occasionally. When you enforce the block consistently, deep work becomes automatic. In the next chapter, we address a hidden source of inefficiency, anxiety. Even protected blocks fail if mental energy is consumed by worry. Next, you will learn how to use time blocks to contain anxiety and reduce cognitive load. Chapter 8. Use time blocks to contain anxiety. Anxiety is not a personal flaw. It is a signal. It is a response to uncontained attention. When your mind is everywhere at once, anxiety grows. It does not matter how capable you are. It does not matter how skilled you are. Uncontained attention always creates tension. The solution is not to resist anxiety. The solution is to contain it. Time blocking does exactly that. Everything has a place, including stress. Say it again. Everything has a place, including stress. Most people treat worry as a background condition. It drifts. It intrudes. It multiplies. That creates mental leakage. Leaked energy cannot focus. Leaked energy cannot calm. Here is the principle. Anxiety shrinks when it is given a container. When a worry has a scheduled time, the mind can rest outside that window. Consider a real example. A manager spends hours fretting over upcoming reports. They check deadlines repeatedly. They rehearse worst-case scenarios. They lose focus. Then they schedule a single, fixed block, 3 to 3:30. All planning, worry, and problem-solving happens only in that block. Outside the block, the mind is free. The difference is immediate. Calm increases. Focus improves. Energy returns. Another example. Someone worries constantly about finances. They review statements at random intervals, often late at night. Sleep is disrupted. Attention is fragmented. After scheduling a daily 20-minute financial review, worry is confined. Outside the block, the mind stops wandering. Decision fatigue drops. Peace rises. Everything has a place, including stress. Time blocks do not eliminate problems. They do not remove uncertainty. They do not produce instant solutions. They produce containment. Containment produces predictability. Predictability produces calm. The mind trusts boundaries. It rests when there is an edge. It relaxes when the unknown is scheduled. You have a choice. You can allow stress to roam freely, or you can assign it a time. Containment does not mean avoidance. It means discipline. It means trust in the system. It means acknowledging the worry, then deferring it to a fixed block. Another real scenario. An executive repeatedly checks email obsessively, fearing missed opportunities. They schedule 2 email blocks, morning and afternoon. They commit to the rule strictly. The mind adjusts. The urge to check outside the blocks diminishes. Anxiety drops. Notice the pattern. Containment, not elimination. Scheduling, not suppression. Structure, not emotion. Every time you honor the time block for worry or review, the mind learns boundaries. Each boundary strengthens focus. Each violation weakens it. Everything has a place, including stress. Here is another rule. Blocks for anxiety or mental rehearsal must be brief. Do not give stress too much room. Small, intentional windows produce maximum containment. Long, open-ended worry prolongs tension. Your mind can handle anything, if it is bounded, if it is scheduled. Another key point. Containment prevents escalation. Unscheduled worry grows exponentially. Scheduled worry stays proportional. Even small blocks of containment are sufficient. Consistency matters more than length. 5 minutes daily is better than an hour occasionally. Everything has a place, including stress. You do not need permission to schedule your worry. You do not need external validation. You enforce the rule. You repeat it daily. Your nervous system learns to anticipate containment. The mind relaxes because the unknown is no longer bleeding into the day. This is the training. This is the system. This is discipline. One final example. Someone schedules a daily planning and reflection block. All concerns, stress, and decisions are addressed there. Outside that block, work is executed without distraction. Calm becomes habitual. Productivity becomes reliable. Containment is invisible but powerful. It frees attention. It reduces cognitive overload. It restores calm. Everything has a place, including stress. Say it again. Everything has a place, including stress. This chapter gives you the 7th principle. Even strong blocks fail if the mind leaks into anxiety. Time-blocked containment restores safety. In the next chapter, we will reinforce consistency. Because even with protected blocks and contained stress, attention collapses without repeated structure. Next, you will learn why consistency beats intensity and how daily repetition trains focus automatically. Chapter 9. Consistency beats intensity. Discipline is not intensity. It is repetition. It is constancy. Most people believe focus comes from heroic effort. They think long hours, extreme schedules, or rare bursts of energy produce results. They are wrong. Long-term calm comes from boring repetition, not heroic effort. Say it again. Long-term calm comes from boring repetition, not heroic effort. Intensity is seductive. It feels productive. It creates a false sense of progress. But it burns the mind. It collapses attention. It produces inconsistency. Consistency, on the other hand, stabilizes the nervous system. It teaches the brain to expect focus at the same times every day. It removes decision fatigue. It prevents friction. Same blocks. Every day. Repeat it. Same blocks. Every day. Consider two workers. Worker 1 works intensely on Monday. Skips Tuesday. Works intermittently Wednesday. Attempts heroic effort Thursday. By Friday, focus is depleted. Stress is high. Nothing feels settled. Worker 2 follows the same schedule every day. Wake. Focus block. Rest. Shut down. No deviation. By Friday, focus is steady. Energy is calm. Confidence is higher. Why? Because repetition trains attention. It does not tire the mind. It trains it. Here is the principle. The nervous system adapts to repeated signals. When the signal is consistent, attention stabilizes. When the signal is intense but inconsistent, attention fractures. You have a choice. You can chase intensity and burnout, or you can repeat structure and gain calm. Every focus block, executed at the same time, is a training session. Every silent block, protected and repeated, strengthens the mind. Every scheduled decision, honored daily, frees cognitive load. Same blocks. Every day. Another example. Someone wants to master writing. They believe a single 5-hour marathon session will produce results. It produces exhaustion instead. The mind rebels. Progress stalls. Another person schedules 1 focused hour daily. Same time, same conditions. After weeks, attention lengthens. Ideas deepen. Flow occurs naturally. That is the power of consistency. It is not glamorous. It is not urgent. It is reliable. It is invisible. It is effective. Repetition reduces friction. Friction is energy lost. Energy preserved builds depth. Here is another rule. You do not negotiate with the schedule. You do not skip blocks. You do not vary start times. Structure gains power through enforcement. Consistency is the multiplier. Intensity is fleeting. Same blocks. Every day. Consider the impact on mental clarity. Every morning, you wake knowing the plan. The mind stops scanning. It rests. It trusts the system. That trust is calm. That calm produces focus. Focus produces results. You do not need motivation. You do not need willpower. You need consistency. Another example. A student plans to study sporadically based on mood. Progress is uneven. Stress rises. Confidence erodes. A student who studies the same time daily, same block, same conditions, gains automatic attention. No resistance. No negotiation. Just focus. The system trains the brain. The mind stops fighting. The day becomes predictable. The nervous system stabilizes. That is how long-term focus is built. You have a choice. Chase heroic effort or embrace boring repetition. Repetition is not dull. It is training. It is conditioning. It is structural. Same blocks. Every day. Repeat it once more. Same blocks. Every day. This chapter gives you the 8th principle. Even the best blocks, silence, and containment fail if they are inconsistent. Daily repetition transforms structure into habit, and habit into automatic attention. In the next chapter, we address integration. Because even consistent blocks are meaningless without embedding them into life as a system. Next, you will learn how to live inside the system and make structure automatic. Chapter 10, Live Inside the System. Time blocking is not a productivity tool. It is not a trick. It is not a method for doing more. It is a way of thinking, a way of living, a way of commanding your attention without negotiation. Structure creates freedom. Say it again. Structure creates freedom. Most people attempt balance. They chase flexibility. They react to circumstances. That is not freedom. It is chaos disguised as choice. It is exhaustion disguised as effort. Structure produces the opposite. Structure produces calm. Structure produces predictability. Structure produces focus. People who live inside the system stop chasing balance. They enforce structure. Wake, focus, rest, shut down. Silent blocks, protected attention, consistent repetition. They do not debate the day. They execute it. Consider real examples. A professional overwhelmed by constant emails stops trying to keep up. They schedule 2 email blocks, silent deep work, and enforce breaks. Within weeks, anxiety falls. Focus grows. Work is completed reliably. Another example, a student attempting to juggle assignments, activities, and social life abandons flexible multitasking. They adopt a fixed framework with single-purpose blocks. Within a month, mental clarity increases. Stress reduces. Confidence rises. The lesson is clear. Time blocking is not about doing more. It is about thinking differently, about embedding structure into life so that attention follows without effort. Structure creates freedom. This is the culmination of everything you have learned. Protect the block. Assign time to stress. Maintain silence. Enforce one purpose per block. Repeat the framework daily. All of these pieces converge to form a system that trains focus automatically, a system that contains anxiety, a system that protects attention. You have a choice. You can live reactively, or you can live inside the system. Living inside the system is not convenient. It is not entertaining. It is not for short-term results. It is for control, calm, depth. Structure creates freedom. Repeat it once more. Structure creates freedom. This is your final instruction. Enforce the framework relentlessly. Obey the blocks. Honor silence. Contain anxiety. Repeat daily. If you commit, attention becomes effortless. Focus becomes automatic. Your mind becomes calm. Your productivity becomes inevitable. Structure is not optional. It is a rule. It is a system. It is your new way of thinking. Structure creates freedom. If you are ready to take control of your attention, implement every chapter, every block, every silent period. Live inside the system. And remember, if you want more guidance on transforming focus, calm, and productivity, subscribe now. Apply these principles consistently. Obey the system. Watch your mind become unshakable.